Our correspondent in Syria, Muhammad Ali, earlier said the arrival of pro-government forces in Afrin shows that Damascus is determined to defend the country's territorial integrity.
This is the first time for years, since the start perhaps of the unrest, that we see the Syrian flag raised with pictures of President Bashar al-Assad inside Afrin, inside those Kurdish held territories. Perhaps they're trying to say that this is a message of unity and determination to put an end to all of the attacks of the Turkish side and the Syrian militants backed by Turkey, of course, who are part of this military offensive launched by Turkey. This is, of course, very important to speak of, because the Syrian government has been always saying recently that Afrin is an integral part of Syria, and that the Syrian army will defend all of its territories. The Syrian pro-government forces are now already over there, side by side, fighting with the YPG, the Kurdish People's Protection Units, in order to defend this area from this Turkish attack. The Syrian army and the Syrian government is fully determined and firm to defend the country against, in the face of any kind of attack, especially now we're speaking about the Turkish one.
Joining us live now from Brussels to discuss that further is Brecht Yonkers, who is a journalist for Al Masdar News. Brecht, thanks for joining us here on Press TV. What do you make of the situation in Afrin?
Thank you very much for having me. It is my belief that the current situation, the developments that have been happening in the northern districts of Afrin in northern Syria, is a showcase that the Syrian government, or at least the militias loyal to the Syrian government, have decided that enough is enough, so that there will be no more acceptance of any violations of Syria's territorial integrity or sovereignty. So Syria's borders shall be protected, and that no foreign intruder, whether it be so-called Syrian rebels, which often, as we know, are actually foreign invaders, nor American forces, nor in this case Turkish forces, would be allowed to violate Syria's unity. So even in the case of Afrin, in which the Turks have not literally been attacking Syrian forces or Syrian government forces, of course they did technically violate Syria's territory and breached Syria's borders, which is in fact under international law an act of war. So I think it's very important to see now that Damascus has said enough is enough, and Turkish intrusion will no longer be accepted.
And Brecht, as you well know, Turkey did say that anybody who would stand in defense of the Kurds would be attacked, essentially, paraphrasing, of course. Do you think that there will be a direct confrontation?
I think it might be a bit difficult to tell. I would normally say that rationally speaking, the Turks should not retaliate militarily against Syria, because it will further lead into a further cataclysm of death and destruction. But then again, things like this might be possibly expected from the regime of Turkish President Erdogan, because his entire invasion, his olive branch operation, as he calls it, in Afrin by itself was a very brazen and very, very stupid action, actually, which was, for many people, was very unexpected, including for myself. So it is possible that he might indeed push through, especially since he already spoke so aggressively. So in order not to lose face with his Turkish nationalist supporters, Erdogan might actually decide to push through and actually take the fight to the Syrian forces, or in this case the pro-Syrian militia forces. And maybe in the future, if the Syrian Arab army is deployed to Afrin, it is a bit difficult to say, but it is possible that the Turkish hawkish imperialist agenda will indeed result in them militarily targeting and shooting at Syrian Arab army forces. It is possible.
And as a final thought then, Brecht, before I let you go, what do you think Turkey's role then will remain when it comes to the entire crisis in Syria? You know, it was much celebrated for being a part of the Astana process, which was quite successful in the sense that de-escalation zones were set up. Will that now change because of its actions in Afrin?
I think so, because we've been hearing a lot of very disappointed tones from Damascus, obviously, and also from Iran and from Russia, because of course many people were hoping that Turkey, being the, let's say, international representative of what they call the so-called moderate rebels in Syria, many people were hoping that through the Astana process, Turkey could actually mediate the moderate rebels, so to say. And in some ways they have, especially in Idlib. In some ways, in some parts they have. But then again, they decided that their own territorial agenda in northern Syria and their own fear of possible Kurdish insurgency within the Turkish border, that somehow overruled the importance of their international obligations toward the Astana process. So I think it definitely will make people lose will make people lose hope and trust in the Turkish government, especially, of course, the Kurdish people in northern Syria. And this might actually draw the so-called Syrian Democratic Forces and the YPG, the Kurdish forces in North Syria. This might actually draw them closer to the Syrian government and further away from the United States, who is, after all, technically, officially an ally of Turkey within the NATO unity.
All right, Brecht, we'll leave it there at that, but of course, we do appreciate you taking your time out to speak to us here.
Thank you very much.